Hey guys, welcome to the shop. So this is a follow-up to my whole keeping the gunsmithing business afloat in 2025 and talking about some of the troubles that happen when you deal with guns and at least how I handle them. Now this shotgun I had talked about came in originally, the guy just wanted me to do a refinish and rechecker. Allow me to grab the forend because I think once you see it you'll understand why I did not bother trying to save it. This was undersized in every dimension. Someone had taken it off and sanded the hell out of it. And they did a bad job checkering it. So I looked at it and it was like, hey boss, can I just make you a new one or get a new one made for you? I got a sub lined up. He does great work, better than me. I think you're going to love him. And it'll probably be cheaper than if I do it here, or at least the same price. And he's like, okay, cool. Sub backed out. He went from, functionally speaking, he doubled his prices. I couldn't do that. So what happened is I had to do the job myself. And I ran into a lot of trouble doing it. I'd never made a shotgun forend before. I think it turned out pretty well. I'm actually really happy with that checkering. It's beautiful. It feels good. The shotgun handles fantastically. It's probably the lightest 12 gauge I've ever handled, which is I love this shotgun. I do not love working on it. I found out a lot of things about Emil Kearner shotguns, which were hard-earned lessons that I really had to work for. That's a polite way of saying things went sideways and fast. There was a busted spring in the forend. I'm not sure if it was completely cracked through when I took it out of the forend, but as soon as I touched it, it fell out shattered. And I looked at it. So I have another Emil Kearner shotgun from about the same time frame. I took the forend apart on that. I wanted to see the spring arrangement. Different spring arrangement, non-interchangeable springs. I guess what happens on these guns is they make all the parts by hand. There's no, here are all of our oversized parts. We'll fit them to each gun, bada bing, bada boom, which is how a lot of the over-unders and side-by-sides are still made today. At least some of the super high-end ones. No, that is not the case. What happened with this gun is I tried making a couple springs. I called the guy and was like, hey, I don't think I can do this and make it functional and reliable, and here's why. Not only are all of these springs super handmade, they're also tempered tremendously hard compared to what most of the springs I work with are tempered to, and they do that to get a higher spring rate so you can have a more vigorous ejector action. So I actually made a spring that worked. It sort of functioned, but it like dribbled the cases out. And I looked at it and I realized it's because this spring is thinner than a similar ejector kicker spring on an American-made shotgun because there's less space inside the forend for it. So they had to go with a much smaller, thinner spring that's harder to get it to function. I was like, oh, okay, I could try to make this work. I did. Spring shattered as soon as I tried to flex it and install it because of the limitations I have in heat treating here. I'm using either a coal forge or my oxy-fuel torch, and I'm hardening by eye in non-magnetic. Now that works most of the time, and it is okay on bigger parts, but basically what happened is I'm having the same problem as why some of the low-number Springfields exploded. Heat treating by eye is just not very reliable. You really should use a thermocouple and a heat treat oven, especially on something like this that's expected to survive thousands or tens of thousands of cycles before failure. Now, I told the customer that they were okay with it, and then here's the thing, and this is where I'm still kicking myself. Instead of just saying no, he wanted me to lengthen the chambers. I tap dance around that because there are some shotguns you can lengthen chambers on and extend forcing cones with what I would consider an acceptable margin of safety. I would generally say on European guns or guns with fixed chokes, no, um, because you don't have the barrel wall thickness. The left side barrel on this gun barely, and I mean barely, has the wall thickness where I could do it safely. The right side gun, no, not the right side barrel, not going to happen. So guess who measured the left side barrel and told the customer that would work? This guy. Um, and I told him, I'm like, I really don't think this is the right choice. I mean, you reload. Why don't you just reload 2.5 inch shells? Like, you can get brass hulls that basically last indefinitely. Go buy like 50 of them, and they'll last you as long as you're shooting the gun. And now that it's an extractor only gun, you're never going to have to worry about losing them. You just grab them, stick them in your pocket. He really wanted to shoot 2 3/4 inch shells because it's slightly more logistically easier, which I understand. Um, I do. And I'm like, okay, I was gentle about, I really think that just sticking with 2.5 inch chambers is the right choice. I also don't want you dumping a shitload of money into this gun that you don't need to. I mean, it functions and it goes bang. Um, and every time I work on hard parts, there's a chance I make it worse. Really wanted 2 3/4 inch chambers, which is okay. I mean, the customer wants what they want, but I shouldn't have said yes. I should have said I need to measure both barrels first. Um, I was still operating under the assumption of American manufacturing methodology where parts are more consistent. And the right side barrel, just for whatever reason, is just that much thinner. I think it's been polished. This does have some pitting and wear on it, and reblued. I'm just not sure. But hindsight being what it is, I should have measured both barrels before I said anything to the customer. Don't be sloppy like that. I was smart enough to measure both barrels just because I had an aha moment. So I didn't create an unsafe condition. But it's not really the greatest look with customers. But the flip side to this is I'm really the only one dumb enough for within about probably 4 or 8 hours of him to even look at one of these German side by sides. So I might still be okay in that department, but even if I'm not, live and learn. Neither of us got injured. We just got a little frustrated on this job. And that's not the end of the world. I think it's not ideal and it's not really the best outcome, but it's okay. Neither of us got hurt, and he got his gun back functional and just looking 10 times better. I mean, this is just, ugh. This butt stock actually was almost worse than this. This looks like it's been chewed on by a dog. It's awful. And I really like these. You know what I might do in the future, and I told him I'm going to put you on my list. As I improve my ability to make springs, I'll make a note. I have a list of people to call as I add services, and I review it regularly. And I'll put him on my list. And as times change, I'll give him a call, and if he's still interested, I'll make the springs for him. And one thing I told him, and this is really a hard lesson, when I was still working for another gunsmith, I think it was a Purdy, and it got shipped back to, I can't remember when they changed names. They used to be Purdy, and now there's someone else. They're like Greenleaf and Sons or something like that. That gun wound up back there twice before they got this same problem fixed and having the gun functioning 100%. It got shipped back once for the original broken spring. It came back into the country. It worked most of the time, and then the spring broke, and then it went back, and then it worked perfectly. So I know this is the end of the video, and I'm going to get all of the butthurt YouTube commenters telling me I'm an incompetent gunsmith, but springs like this on a side-by-side are a very different beast than putting a lock spring in a side lock or a flint lock. And most of the people who have experience with leaf springs in the US are interacting with flintlock springs that are just a different beast. They're made a little bit differently. You're able to make them heavier so they're more robust, and you've got much more tolerance for how hard or soft you make them. So I'm not embarrassed to tell this story, and if you're actually watching to this point in the video, you should drop a comment, and I will probably put a timestamp And for everyone who tells me I'm bad at making leaf springs, I'm going to share this story with them. I am not great at making leaf springs. I can make a functional one. I could not make a functional and reliable one for this gun at a cost the customer was willing to absorb. And that's a very different thing than I just couldn't make one. Um, I would like to consider myself smart enough to walk away and not light customers' money on fire. If he was willing to spend $500 on that spring, I'd do it in a heartbeat because then I have time. I can deal with it. I can afford to send it to a heat treater, um, or I can send the still good spring out to one of the flintlock guys I know and say, "Hey, can you make me this spring? Make two of them. I need them to be a little bit longer." Say like a 16th of an inch or a 32nd of an inch longer than this other one. They both need to be fitted to the gun. I'm not sure the spring I sent you is perfectly functional. If I had that kind of budget, I could make it happen, but I don't. So, you know, you have to understand that with customers where you can't always do everything for everyone because sometimes what it takes is more than they're willing to pay. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. It is fun sharing and talking about these guns. They're always really interesting to look at. This one in particular, I've actually really enjoyed working on it, as hard as the job has been. And it's been a fun learning experience overall. It's a nice shotgun. I respect the effort and really just the incredible skill that goes into making a firearm like this. And I hope I've done it justice with my work. It's certainly head and shoulders better than it was when it came in.